built, not Vincent Price, Chris French built an artificial sort of haunted chamber pumped full of infrasound and other electromagnetic waves associated with eerie feelings to see if participants had any spooky sensations.
And what we found was that quite a proportion of our participants did report mildly anomalous sensations, which we were quite excited about. We analysed our results and we found it didn't matter whether the infrasound was on or off. What we did find it correlated with was their scores on a particular questionnaire to measure temporal lobe lability. Now, what that means is that people with particularly susceptible temporal lobes, sometimes under appropriate conditions, they get unusual activity in the temporal lobes of the brain, and that's what was causing the hallucinations.
I see.
Which is an interesting idea, but we also know the scale correlates with suggestibility.
Right.
So the most plausible explanation is that if you say to suggestible people, if you go in here, you might experience some weird stuff, some of them will.
So we're also ruling infrasound out for Kate Bush's weapons.
Well, yes.
Man, we are the kings of the debunking today.
I know.
OK, but I don't think we can dismiss them altogether. A few non-lethal sonic weapons have been developed in the past. There was one called the Squawk Box and another called the Curdler, both of which emitted unpleasant sounds to disperse crowds.
And in 2012, there was a leaked US report containing a whole suite of new gadgets, such as the improved flashbang grenade, which basically temporarily blinds you and deafens you at 140 decibels.
Sounds pleasant.
Not really. And the impulse swimmer gun for repelling attacks from scuba divers by making them vomit in their own face masks.
These people have been watching way too much James Bond.
Yeah, I know, but still they haven't managed to invent the exploding pen. The truth is that most of these languished in development, and I don't think they can be really classed as effective weapons.
OK, but let's get back to the original question based around the Song Experiment 4. This is another piece of evidence I've unearthed about the kind of weapon that Kate Bush was definitely developing.
Allegedly. I see. So we're talking about psychologically disturbing sounds.
Sounds like Kate Bush is contravening several parts of the Geneva Convention here.
Allegedly, please?
So we've concluded that it's hard to make a sound loud enough to damage our body, but can it mess with our minds? I checked with acoustic engineer Trevor Cox.
Certainly people are playing around with unpleasant sounds. We all know that if you scrape fingernails down the blackboard, it's pretty unpleasant. Well, you can imagine playing that loudly at people will be unpleasant. It may maybe make people go away. There's a couple of examples come to mind which are aimed at teenagers. One is just to play classical music as a way of getting them to move away from places maybe they're loitering outside shops. And that's obviously got nothing to do with the paying threshold or anything. That's just they don't think it's a bit naff.
Teenagers just don't like Rachmaninoff.
Well, the other effect you've got for teenagers is this thing called the mosquito device, which is quite controversial because you play quite high-level, high-frequency sound that only teenagers can hear, and it is quite unpleasant.
OK, well, this is definitely one that we can test out on the radio.
And apologies to any teenagers, we promise we won't play it very loud, but see if you can hear this.
Well, I didn't hear anything.
That's because you're well old.
Did you hear it?
No.
Well, so are you then. The truth is that you can only hear this sound into your early 20s before the hair cells in your ears become desensitised and you lose the top frequencies.
But, OK, if we're thinking about sounds that drive us mad, Kate Bush might want to look a little bit closer to home, because even music has been used as a form of torture, as Trevor Cox told me.
There's quite a lot of military uses for it. So I remember from when I was younger, Noriega was holed up in the embassy in Panama and the US military started playing Bruce Springsteen at him from vast loudspeakers to try and get him to surrender. I guess that's kind of a psychological battle. The other one was there was something called the Manilow effect in Australia, where they would play Barry Manilow songs at people. You can imagine Bermuda Triangle, and actually Manilow complained about that.
Really?
Her name was Lola.
Oh no, make it stop. I can't take it anymore.
Oh, Adam, can't you handle the Copacabana? We've got 8 more hours of this.
I'll tell you everything I know. Please make it stop.
Well, that was surprisingly easy. I had a whole repertoire of songs to try still. Barney the Dinosaur, R.E.M., Rage Against the Machine. They have all been used as psychological torture before. In fact, so many songs that a bunch of musicians wrote to the US government in 2002 demanding that their music shouldn't be used as a form of torture in Guantanamo Bay. So, Dr. Rutherford, when it comes to whether sound can kill, can we say case solved?
Noise could rupture your eardrums at 160 decibels. That's a bit louder than standing right next to a jet engine.
Or maybe collapse your lungs at 200 decibels.
But the amount of kit you'd need makes it a pretty cumbersome weapon. Hello? Hannah, it's Kate Bush's lawyers. They urgently want to speak to you.
The Curious Cases of Rutherford and Fry was presented by Adam Rutherford and Hannah Fry. The producer was Michelle Martin. And you can download the podcast, which features extra material on the Radio 4 website.